I guess I'm okay. We are live. Technical difficulties. Just another day in paradise. Welcome to the NFL Fantasy Today show. I'm your host, Jon Mosales. It's a Sports Ethos presentation. Today's going to be a banger. It's Monday. It's hot. Brian, what's going on? You said the power was out. There was a storm.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of a storm, so if you hear thunder, don't be scared. But
okay.
If my power goes out, then hopefully my computer's charged enough.
Maybe it's just the servers from your projection model are just overloading the grid.
I can't open too much Excel at the moment, but other than that, we're good.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think I may have been responsible for crashing the website because I always keep all my articles still up, just keep looking at them, and everyone else's. So I had probably 30 different browsers open. But anyway, so if you're watching on Twitter, jump over to YouTube, right? Like, subscribe, because not all the episodes are going to be available. We got our draft guides out. We're dropping articles pretty much every day. And this week's super special. I'm dropping my Mosales 200, part 2. It's going to be 200 times better than last season because now I'm got a little bit better feel. I'm a little more cockier. If somebody's projected like Fantasy Pros or ADPs 80 and I like them at 60, I'm just going to give that 20 jump gap and not worry about it. Brian, you're dropping your projection model this week, I think Thursday. Hopefully it's new and improved. You want to talk me just through some steps? Anything you've changed? Anything you learned? I think I've asked you this a couple times. You've never had an answer for me, but hopefully you got one now.
I'd say big things I learned is it's a season long. So this isn't your best ball. Like, the projections are kind of season long. They're based on volume. So this isn't going to be your best ball. We're not digging into potential and all that stuff. I think the best way to look at projections is probably look at both of our stuff together, look at rankings, and then look at the projections. If you see someone's high in rankings and they're lower in projection, it probably means that there's opportunity for them to gain, whether it's rushing share, receiving share, depending on kind of what they're in, or just kind of touchdown share. And I think that's probably the best way to look at it. It is very helpful to kind of look at and see, like, what teams do I want to target in ambiguous, whether it's a backfield or ambiguous receivers, like who's going to take the lead role on certain teams from a receiving standpoint. That's probably the biggest places that I like to use the projections to look. And it helps me tier out certain players. Like tight ends, I have a massive gap between my top 2 tight ends and the rest.
2, not 3?
2.
So what, Kittle doesn't make the cut?
He does not.
Wow. I think he's been top 4 5 years in a row.
Yeah, top 4 is top 4, but my top 2 is my top 2 fit under a wide receiver 1 if I were to combine them. The next 2 fit under a wide receiver 4.
Wow, I love talking tight end. That's great. I mean, Kittle. Okay, this is huge. This is breaking news because I think he was a wide receiver 1 on fantasy points per game, but Bowers scored more, or was it Bowers? One of them. Yeah, I think that was it. It was 13.2 to 12.2 or something like that. Yeah. Okay, let's just talk Kittle quickly. So we got San Fran, we got the bounce back, we got that last place schedule, which has been stuck in my head since Jason mentioned it in February. We got Ayuk maybe on the pup list, right? Jennings, Pearsall working their way in. Can we talk? Is there anything to account for Kittle? Is it age? There's no other tight end. What are we doing?
I think it's I don't. Part of that is another ambiguous wide receiver room that I was looking at, because Jennings now potentially wants a new deal or wants to get traded. So that is a room. There is room for potential there. Just from a volume standpoint, though, I don't think he measures up to what you're going to get from McBride and Bowers. So that's the big reason. There is a lot of potential there, and I kind of noted that as one of my wide receiver rooms to check out, is who's going to step up. Ayuk, like you said, probably on the pup. CMC's back, and a lot of the times running backs and tight ends tend to kind of be in the same area of the field, whether they're the kind of the dump off, the last resort plays, just get 5 yards and move forward with your down. So
that's what it is, right? CMC's occupying 1,800 all-purpose yards in the offense and probably 12 to 15 touchdowns, which really shrinks the margin for what Kittle has available. That makes sense.
Last season, obviously, he wasn't there much, so Kittle could kind of do whatever he wanted there. It's not like you saw Garendo or Mason taking – they were solid, but they weren't taking the passing work that McCaffrey had previously.
Well, Grendo can, but Mason didn't do anything yet. But
Yeah.
Grendo was only like 2 games. So.
Yeah. So
okay, what about Vegas? Right? Do you ever look at like the Vegas projections? Right? Let's let's say Kittle. Right? His yards are probably maybe 950 in Vegas, and then your projection probably has them like maybe higher or lower.
Vegas. Oh, for the sorry, I thought you were talking Vegas Raiders. I have not looked at Vegas yet. This is like I haven't even looked at your rankings. I tend to my process is like go through it on my own, look at all the news, look at some websites I trust for depth charts, and then do it on my own. Later on, I'll start to kind of okay, what would you say? What does Fantasy Pros like? What does consensus say? I'll start to look at that later on to see am I confident in things that are way off in my projections? Not way off, but just different. Or am I not confident in it? And if I'm confident, I'm going to stick with it. If I'm not, I'll kind of adjust, whether it's volume based or other kind of efficiency metrics I can adjust later on. But this is the first version, and we'll kind of keep updating as we get more info on depth charts, etc.
Okay. So remember, my big thing is I love to look at the past, future, you're a history buff. So, that's a big way you should approach, the future and past, whatever. What did we learn? Like, what were some of your big hits, misses last year, or any adjustments you wish you had known ahead of time to do? Maybe like even the way you weighted the season.
I'd say one of the things I needed to learn was winning teams run the ball way more. So like if you're the Chiefs, they haven't looked that great offensively for fantasy wise in a while. Do you think anyone there cares? They've been to 4 Super Bowls in a row. I think that's the case. Like, does anyone really care? They've been to enough Super Bowls in a row.
Yeah, three, I think.
Yeah, so like, do people really care that much on like from the Kansas City area? Like, probably not. They care about winning. I think Eagles, that'll be an example. Probably I'm a bit lower on some of the passing and just offense in general from kind of like an upside standpoint. I think they'll still have weekly upside, but season long, not as much, just because I think they're going to be super run heavy, and their defense really came on at the end of the season.
Well, so let's stick on KC though, right? So you said winning teams run the ball, but they threw 37 passes a game, which was 7th, right? They had a 41-59 run pass split, which was 10th highest pass team. So it wasn't really that they run the ball; it's just that they don't care about scoring, right? Because they kind of would pass as a run.
Yeah, they would do your I guess the big play scoring is more the thing. Like, if you think of the Bengals are kind of the exact opposite, where they needed to go deep, they needed to catch up. Kansas City was more like game management, where we're just going to run the clock and we're going to have long possessions, and we know we have a good defense and we'll win this game as a result.
And it's a copycat league, right? We saw KC's done that. They almost won every game. The Bills clearly pivoted to that. Yep. Eagles pivoted to that. So, is this going to be a trend now with these teams? Like, Baltimore's kind of the exception, right? Because they've got all the tools and a good defense, but they were still very explosive.
Yeah, but they were more explosive in the running than they were in the passing.
Sure. I think Lamar had 41 passing touchdowns, but that's true.
I think it's just something to keep in mind of, okay, I might not go as heavy on a Bills or Eagles or Kansas City passing stack as I might have done in the past, just because in the past I was, this is a good offense, this is a good team, I want to get in on it.
Yeah,
maybe now I want to get in on the running backs though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, for sure. Or especially even the backup running backs, because if you know a good team value, we'll talk about some of them later too. But let's stay on this because this has been a really big theme I've just been following. Like Buffalo. Josh Allen was the QB2 last year. He was I think he was 48 points behind Lamar Jackson. But if you look at his passing stats, they're dramatically down from the last couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. There's clearly been this shift from going for these explosive plays for these really good teams. Are there any other teams you see that maybe becoming a theme for? Like, will Detroit do that? Denver, the Chargers?
I think the Chargers already somewhat do it. Like, Herbert's not been crazy, but they're kind of ball management. Denver, it's not like Knicks was one of the top 3. He was a good quarterback, and I think he could probably stay pretty similar just because that offensive line is so good. But I do think, I mean, most Sean Payton offenses, they really do use the run to kind of get play action pass, and they'll use their running backs and dump offs. It is more the game management offense. I was kind of looking at it the opposite way of, like, what teams do I think are going to be down a lot? What teams do I think might be the Bengals of this year? Maybe not as explosive, but like, where are opportunities where this team's going to have to score points to stay in it? And I think, I mean, it's crazy to think about, but like 2 teams that stuck out to me that I'm really intrigued with are Carolina and New England.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, I'm definitely in New England, but yeah, Carolina just seems to be popping up everywhere, right? I was just looking at Bryce. Do you know what he finished? I think he was like QB2 and QB1 in 2 of the last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, he came on at the end. He was running a lot more at the end. Like, he had a 10 to 15% rush share, which is like very above average for a quarterback. I just think he, like, those receivers, I think they're going to be forced to pass. It really looked like he flipped the switch. So, like, those are, I mean, best ball. I hear a bunch of like best ball late round stacks with them. But even kind of season long, I'm really curious about their wide receivers. Like Tet McMillan, I didn't like him coming out, but like he really has a chance to kind of take over that receiving core, unless you think it's going to be Adam Thielen or one of those guys. Like
it was. I mean, if he didn't drop that pass, they beat the Eagles.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I still got my Super Bowl champion, but yeah, I mean, I am very like him. I mean, even Caleb Williams. I mean, that Chicago team,
they're pretty trendy, but
yeah, I mean, that's the trendy pick just because of the offense.
But let's stay in Carolina, right? You got a pretty good O-line, right? Mm-hmm. Chuba Hubbard is probably the most underrated running back. You got a pretty terrible defense. So that's hitting a lot of those Cincinnati markers, where if they're down 28-10 in, at halftime in a bunch of games, right? Bryce is going to have probably 250 yards in all these second halves.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as long as we eliminate the turnovers, which is not a given whatsoever, I think he could put up some of that. Like, I don't know if I want him as my single QB, but if I'm doing a shotgun approach at QB in season long, I think he's a great late round option to kind of go for and see what happens.
I don't even think you can think of it in 1 QB leagues anymore. You have to think of it in 2 QB. Just because 1 QB, it's just like, just give me Goff and J.J. McCarthy, right? There's just so many combinations you can make. Yeah. So, I think super flex. Okay. If Bryce is your second QB, how are you feeling? You're feeling okay, right?
Yeah, I don't hate it.
Yeah, right? Okay, so let's talk a couple other teams you like. Well, let's talk Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy. I think your projections really like him, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my projections are also like the base of my projections, I pick an offense.
Yeah.
From the past 2 years. I have data on the past 2 years, so I pick an offense. It didn't matter which year I picked for Minnesota, their offense was good. It didn't matter the quarterback, really. Their offense was good. I think you're plugging and playing him with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson's a good tight end, Aaron Jones is solid in the run game, and pass catching. So there's so many weapons there. He was kind of plug and play at Michigan. He did what he was supposed to, and they won. I think there's opportunity for him to do what he's supposed to and win here. They let Darnold go, so they know more than we know. Everyone was so high on Darnold last year. Like, even if he's, 90% of Darnold, that's still a pretty good value from what Darnold did last season for fantasy.
90% of Darnold is going to be ecstatic, right? I think he had, how many touchdowns does Darnold have? Like 30, 35, 38?
Mm-hmm.
So.
I mean, he was very good, and it's maybe the touchdowns aren't there, but I do think JJ, I think, will run it more. He tested really well in the combine from athleticism. So if you can let him get out running, or worst case, it's just I know that my Minnesota pass catching options have a legitimate option to get them the ball.
And I mean, it's also Addison's like 23, third year. He's still improving. JJ's in his prime. And then we're getting Hawks in the year after his ACL surgery, right? Is that the best 3-man receiving unit in the NFL?
I mean, it's up there. Like, would you take that over I mean,
Jamar Chase
Bengals
and
kind of
Zeke.
stick out.
I mean, I think Hawk over Gesicki is enough.
Yeah.
But Higgins is probably a lot better than Addison. But yeah, it's definitely close. Okay, so Minnesota. So what do you do with like Aaron Jones, right? I think he played all 17 games last year, but he's 29-30. He's injury prone. That's pretty much the running back age cliff, and when they go they go fast. How do we have? Because Jordan Mason is one of my favorite targets this season. Because if I'm fading Jones, I love Mason. I love that O line. I think they're going to be up, even though Mason's not much of a dual threat. It's just that team is a full target, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I'm looking at Jones this year is almost more of a like. I think I could see him and Mason, or what I'm projecting is him and Mason to have pretty similar rushing shares, and then Aaron Jones to kind of be that pass catching back. He's already proven in the past that he can kind of perform and is efficient through the air. So I think bringing Mason in almost takes some wear and tear off Aaron Jones, so he can be fresh and still kind of back to his previously explosive self when he's not a bell cow with 20 plus touches a game. So I think Mason almost protects Jones more for me.
That's true. That makes sense. But his ADP is well outside the 100 in most leagues, and it's just like we saw what he's done if he's getting the number one job. And I mean, I was talking about everybody loves a sequel, so why can't we have it in fantasy, right? Aaron Jones he's just right there. It's all about making bets, right? It's like kind of playing craps. I don't know how to play craps, but the chance that Aaron Jones has a snake eye season is high enough for me where it's like I got to take the insurance on Mason.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it. I think like Mason is the type of person who might not project out as well, but he has that upside. Jones projects out a bit better just because it's hard to project injury and projections, so I try not to. And if I assume health and kind of split things, it's some of the more injury-prone people do end up a little higher in projections.
Sure, yeah. And also Jones is really good receiving back, right? Where Mason doesn't really have that in his bag. Okay, so you said New England, too, is high in the projections, right? So we got a new coach. They went from incompetent to Vrabel, who's a top 7 coach at worst?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they're high in my projections. They have me looking at them.
I mean, as a bump, they were probably 29th, 30th last year.
Yeah.
Right, but then they got I think Morgan Moses or something from the Ravens or Jet Center. They drafted their first pick, right? Got another O lineman. Drake May, second year, he'll be starting. They go Kyle Williams. They drafted. So it's just like that's and Travion Henderson, right? So it's like it's a full new infrastructure. And they were maybe the worst offense in the league last year, right? They were a joke.
Oh yeah.
So. Who do we like there, and what kind of direction do you think they're going to try and go?
I mean, at this moment, it's very hard to kind of project how the receiver room's going to come out. Like, they have, Keyshawn Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Kyle Williams. They picked up Mac Hollins. They still have Pop Douglas. They have Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Like, they have a bunch of – I mean, Diggs isn't a wide receiver 1 anymore, but he has the talent. He's still solid. And then they have a bunch of, wide receiver 4s. So, who's going to pop there? As a result, I don't know who's going to pop. And the person who's been very consistent there recently has been Hunter Henry. So as a result, in the projections, he's way higher than consensus. 10 to 15 spots higher than consensus in my rankings, just because who else is going to catch the ball? Maybe it's Travion Henderson, maybe not. Maybe Kyle Williams breaks out, maybe not. But, I mean, Drake May has kind of shown he likes a safety blanket, so Henry's there. I think he's a good kind of, you skipped out on the top 2 or 3 tight ends, whatever you feel. I think he's a good late round option if you can get him or he falls, just to say, okay, I know I can start this guy week 1. He has the upside if he scores touchdowns, just like every other tight end. So I think he's a pretty good value pick at the moment with this. And then I'm keeping an eye on kind of how everything progresses throughout the season. I don't know how many of these guys I'll take a shot on in the draft, but they're people to look out for.
Okay. Oh, these are just your messages. Just seeing if Andre messaged me. Oh, no, how do I get rid of them now? Oh well. Okay, so this is something I want to talk to you about. So your projections, right? You weighed it mostly last season, so for week one, but then as the season goes on, you give more weight to the current season, right?
Yeah. So like in season long projections, you don't see many running backs go over a 50% rush share, just kind of as an example. In game to game, you see a lot of running backs go over a 50% rush share. So it's stuff like that where it's who's healthy to start off. And then the data I use Vegas over under projections. I'm still going to use that for weekly projections. So we'll get that obviously as the season comes. And then the data I use from previous season is like efficiency metrics, like how many for receivers, what's their reception percentage on targeted balls to them. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to think, okay, I don't know if Diggs will be healthy week one, but like Diggs might have a higher target share than maybe the whole season projection at like 25%. But then like, what did he catch? So a lot of it is inputted kind of how I feel they'll do, just kind of keeping tabs on the market and what everyone else kind of thinks around the league on what we think target shares and all that'll be. Previous season stats are more like yards per reception percent, rushing, or like percentage of touchdowns. So like Jalen Hurts scores more touchdowns on his rushes than majority of other QBs, stuff like that. So
Okay,
that's
but
kind
I
of where
want
the
to
data.
talk, but on like parts of the season, right? Because week one isn't as important as week 17, like for
Yeah.
projecting a player, right? Because
Yeah.
guys get better, stuff happens. So like end of season, we always see these guys pop. So we're on the path. Keishawn Butte, I think he had like 80 yards in 2 of the last 3 games, even though he might not even had 80 yards total in the first 5 games combined, right?
Mhm.
But season long, he probably averaged like 32 yards, but over maybe the back quarter, he was averaging 65 yards per game. So
Yep.
how do we weight that going in? Like, is there a way where you're weighting that back half of the last season more than the first half in doing this season's projections?
I'd say majority of that kind of goes into depth chart, keeping eyes on depth chart. So like, sure, if he, I don't know, I think of it in like NBA almost, where it's like silly season heroes.
Sure.
Was Keishawn Boutte a silly season hero where he was just a body that had a ball thrown to him because no one else was on the field or healthy enough to be on the field? Or did he earn that? And the way you'll kind of see that with earning it is he higher in the depth chart and just keeping it on that? So those are kind of people to keep that I would look out for mostly, is like who's kind of increasingly going up the depth chart, or who maybe broke out at the end of last season and then is still like 5th or 6th on the depth chart.
Okay, but stick with your M. Oh, sorry, were you done?
But I was just going to say that to me tells me what I think their volume will be moving forward.
Okay, but so sticking with your NBA analogy, rookies who pop in silly season usually as a good metric to gauge for the next season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Quentin Grimes on Philly was dropping like 30 points a game. Now with this next season, maybe not on Philly because they got in the depth chart, he's not going to get many shots. But that is, I find, a good metric to try and gauge, because rookies, they get better. And then, if they finish strong, I like that as an indicator for next season, right? So we got Butte, Marvin Mims had a really strong finish this season, Jalen McMillan on Tampa, but then they drafted Ibuka. McMillan was going to be almost my number 1 target this season, but now you can't make, he's the wide receiver 4 in week 1.
Yeah.
So it's just what you're trying. It's a science, right? You're just trying to get little edges as you can. But obviously, if you use week 18 as a weighted metric, your projection model is going to be screwed because week 18 doesn't even really matter.
Yeah, and I think, I'm an Eagles fan, but like one thing that sticks out to me is Eagles running back room. So they used to have Kenneth Gainwell. They let him walk, and then they picked up A.J. Dillon, and they have Will Shipley. A.J. Dillon's not a pass-catching back. Kenneth Gainwell had a lot of that.
Back.
Yeah, he's a body at this point. But their moves in the offseason seem to state, hey, I'm pretty comfortable with Will Shipley as that backup role. I'm not saying he's going to be great in fantasy, but he's a guy I'm keeping my eye out because Kenneth Gainwell got some pass catching work and was kind of a third down role to spell Barkley. And
in the blowouts.
Yeah, and blowouts. And I mean, I don't want to knock on wood, but like Barkley had so many touches last season. So there is an injury risk just historically for running backs that had that many touches. So who's the next guy up? Seems to be Shipley.
I asked this to Rick when he had him on the pod. Do you know what percentage of all his touches in Barkley's career were just last season?
I do not, but it's got to be a lot. I mean, it's got to be like 20% maybe.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah.
Scary.
I mean, the weird thing is he was still explosive in the playoffs. So like maybe he's built for it. I don't know. Do I want to bet against it? It's like trying to bet against Derrick Henry. Like I thought he was going to be done 2 years ago. He wasn't.
Yeah. Do you know how much he improved his yards per rush from Tennessee to Baltimore?
Probably a lot, just because.
Hey, you got to play the game, Brian.
I'll go 1.2.
Yeah, 1.7.
Yeah, I mean, it makes like you actually have a threat other than him on the offense.
Yeah, but post 30, that's unprecedented, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to get back to New England because Drake May is just a guy I've been digging into a lot. I've written about him a lot, and I just think he might be the most valuable player in fantasy based on his ADP and his potential, right? I think he has top 5 upside with the dual threat if he can score some rushing touchdowns. And the offense makes the leap. If everything hits, right?
Mm. I mean, I don't see top 5. I do see an improvement. So I see maybe they get to middle of the pack. I'd be happy if they get to middle of the pack of an offense.
Oh, I just mean Drake May is top 5 QB, not in the top 5 offense.
Well, yeah. I mean, in general, like if he can get to, get to like a streamable quarterback in 12 team, I'd be happy.
Okay.
In like one quarterback 12 team, just because to get to top 5, you have to do a lot. And I don't know. They seem to be pretty careful with them. And Mike Vrabel offenses in general, like they haven't been great. They've been very run focused, very play action. Like Ryan Tannehill, I mean, that was probably the prime Tennessee quarterback and with Vrabel. And I think he had solid games and he
was airing it out though. They would run, sling it, right? Tannehill had and they had Derrick Henry, so maybe he'll pivot a bit, but
yeah. Okay, I mean, go ahead. He had the explosion games. So like you're right there. It's does the play action work this time? Yes, and then you have the big plays, and I think that's projection wise, I wouldn't project him to be much higher than like 10 to 15. But I do think he could be a great best ball quarterback he goes off for 25 and then he has 10.
But right, the Pats defense too, right? That's kind of the kicker, right? It was pretty terrible, right? But so if that defense is bad, if they're behind, he's going to get all these cheap running yards. If some of the wide receivers pop, I just think based on his ADP, which is I think like QB 17, I just think he's almost must draft because I think he could easily get into the top 10. Top 5 is like the penthouse ceiling, 5% chance.
I hear you.
I'm just saying, like a lot of these guys in that range don't even have that ceiling, right? Because he's the only one who's got that rushing upside, and his throwing ability is great. I think he had almost multiple touchdowns in like every game he started. They had a lot of turnovers, but I could see it if everything works in his favor, which it could.
Any offenses that you're like, I don't want to say low key down on, but like any offenses that consensus have pretty high on that you're not feeling?
Let's see. Probably, I guess Tampa. I think the Liam Cohen thing is going to hurt. Tristan Wirfs is just out. I'm fading Mike Evans and Godwin. I still like Bucky, but I think they've just been like just hit lightning 2 years in a row, and so I guess I'm fading them a little bit. It's summer, so I'm probably higher on it's very an optimistic time, right? So the Bills, I'm fading Buffalo. I mean, James Cook, who knows? Ray Davis. If I'd had a draft today, Ray Davis would be my top 3 most drafted player. Just because if James Cook leaves, Ray Davis is probably top 15 running back.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty similar with Buffalo. I mean, it's hard to project them poorly because they've just been an elite offense, but like
I know, but but I don't want anyone on their team.
Yeah, it's like I take Josh Allen again, sure, but that's mostly because he kind of does Superman on his rushing. It's not really his passing anymore.
Yeah, but also I think 2 of his games, it was like I forgot I had the number before, but it was like 30% of his production. That Rams game and that Lions game, right? They're the Chiefs model. The defense is really good. The team's really good, right? He's getting like 220 yards and a touchdown passing game, but 65 and like 2 touchdowns in the running game. But I just when they switched OCs from Ken Dorsey to the guy now, and they made this clear pivot, right? He led the league in interceptions 2 leagues ago. He led the interceptions this league, but this past year, but in the good way, at the least, right?
Yeah.
So they're not going to repivot. So it's just, I'm out. I don't know why he's being drafted higher than Lamar Jackson in any league, but so yeah, Buffalo. Let's see. Are people high in Miami?
I mean, for me, it's like my projections are better than last season, but that's also because last season Tua was out. So, like, yeah, I'm higher on Tyreek and Jalen than they were previous seasons, but part of that's just health of the quarterback, and I don't think they're going to be wide. I don't know exactly, but like they were wide receiver 30s or something. I don't know exactly, so don't quote me on that, but like they were not startable receivers for a lot of the season. I think they will kind of get back to at least startable receivers, but I'm scared and like I don't know. I'd say the Jonnu Smith departure made me like Waddle and Hill a bit more because I don't know how much I trust Darren Waller to actually take that over.
No, 0.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, they made a concerted effort to get the ball out quicker. So, like, a lot of the efficiency metrics for A-Chain went down. And to get the ball out quicker means you're not kind of taking advantage of Tyreek and Waddle's speed to get downhill and get open there. So, we'll see. I mean, I don't love them. Like, I know going into last season, people loved that offense just because.
Yeah, I mean, he was evolving the offense as we saw it, right? Quick strike, the pre-motion, just finding into gaps. It was almost a flawless strategy. It was like having a third arm boxer.
Yeah, like I'd say I'm like slightly higher than probably consensus on Miami, but I'm not like gung-ho about them.
Okay, for me, it's O-line. I'm out. So just quickly, everyone make sure you check out our draft guide at sportethos.com. I'm dropping my Mosales 200 tomorrow, right? So it's it's different. I'm going with my feels this time, and I'm not worried. I'm not worried about being wrong because it's just I was a little too worried about everyone else's list last year, and I didn't want the guys to be too off. But now I'm like, nope, he's my guy. That's where he's going. And if I hate you, you're out. Brian's projection model is going to drop Thursday, so that's going to be dope. Combined, you're probably going to have a good shot at winning your league. At least I think. Another team, Rams, not high in the Rams, right? I think they might be the epitome of the great football team, terrible fantasy team, right? They were outside, I think, the top 22 fantasy points per game, every position except wide receiver. Devontae Adams, 30, he's past that age cliff. I think he's toast. What is his 3rd team in 3 years? And I love me some Puka, but he's injury prone. And Kyron Williams is the worst running back in the league who puts up great fantasy numbers.
Yeah, actually, one person I'm like targeting late, and I got him in like I've done like 3 best ball drafts, and I got him in all of them. Is Tutu?
Oh yeah,
because
Tutu,
they paid him, and he's now like I feel like that 3rd receiver role is all his. And Puka is injury prone, and Adams is just older, so potentially higher risk for injury there. And they normally have like 2 receivers that are fantasy viable. So he's, to me, a nice late round shot that I like.
Yeah, I like that. I remember last year everyone was really high in DeMarcus Robinson, right? And when Puka went out and then Cooper went out, but I was like, Tutu's kind of a guy.
Yeah.
So I like that. But so Kyron Williams, do you know what was his longest touchdown run last year? Do you know? Well, I mean, I know. Take a guess.
9 yards.
Okay, you got to play the game fair. You cheated. 13 yards, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that insane? Right? His explosive metrics are terrible. He breaks tackles. I'll give him that. But like he's not great in the receiving game. It's just that offense was like tackled at the 3, and then they were able to just run it in every time.
I mean, yeah, that's like from a fantasy perspective, we all love like the big explosive guys, but at some point, like this is kind of where projections help. It's like somebody just has to have the role. and he fills the role of running back on that team very well. So, like from a projection standpoint, Kyron Williams will look better than maybe, or he'll look higher in rankings, like projection rankings, versus like what I would rank him and how I want him, just because he's super safe. And this kind of tails into something that I wanted to like mention is like there are different ways to score the same amount of points. You can have 10 points throughout, or you can have like, you can start the season as like you're like 5 points, 15. Like you need people who will win you weeks. Because if you just have like above average everywhere and they're all safe, you're going to like, if you look at it from like a betting perspective, you win money in fantasy when you win a league. You don't win a league being above average at every position because you're just going to end up barely making the playoffs and then losing to a team that just goes off. So like you do have to.
They put up 180, you put up 125 every week. Like
like it's frustrating, but you need to take that risk. So that's where again, like looking at projections versus rankings and seeing, hey, like Cleveland's running backs. I have them all kind of split, like 30, 20, 30 type of rushing share.
All three or just the two? Jerome Ford and Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, and then they have, I don't know about Judkins with all that going on. And they have the other guy, Dylan Sampson, the other rookie who I've heard good things about. So just like things to keep in mind of, hey, I don't know, maybe you heard something about Judkins' legal case. So if you're super confident on one of those, I would say looking at the projection model, you could see, all right, they're all down, but I think this person could get way higher. You can kind of use the model to say, okay, here's room for opportunity. And you can be like, you don't have to have all of our picks. I think our picks are well, but you can also use the data we give you to kind of make your best decision as well on, I think Jerome Ford's still a solid running back and I want him. Great.
Okay, but he's kind of exactly what you're talking about. He's slightly above average, right? He's never going to have 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? Yeah. He might have 80 all-purpose yards, couple receptions, and a touchdown, which is fine in your flex if he's your RB4, But
just from like a value standpoint.
But yeah, value, good value. But back to Kyron, right? You're saying he's safe, but maybe he isn't because Sean McVay's a savage, right? Cooper Kupp was his guy, his favorite player. He got old and he was gone, right? So, right, Goff took him to a Super Bowl, didn't win, gone, right? So they got Blake Corum, who might not be good, but Jarquez Hunter they drafted. Sometimes you get a guy off the street. So I just think like if you use this top 30 pick or whatever, I forget where Kyron is right now because he's low on my board, and somebody comes in and is better, Kyron's done because he's very replaceable. And we've seen these running backs, like their shelf life is very short. If you don't have the goods, you might be on the street.
Yeah, and I think what you're pointing out also is kind of good to know is like you're familiar with that offense. So you know that Sean McVay kind of likes to have that one running back. And if that one running back falters, you know another one's going to get a chance to be the lead guy. So then those are kind of good backups to go after, whether it's Corum or I think Hunter is the guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I don't know which one, but I think one of them is going to be very good for me. So good late round target to go after. Another reason why I kind of like Tutu is do a lot of 11 personnel. So that third receiver is going to be on the field a lot.
They don't throw to him, though. That offense is very star-tiered, right?
Yeah, and like Isaiah Likely is a tight end that projections for me don't look the best just because it's being split with Andrews, but they run a lot of 12 personnel. They go heavy a lot because they like to run out of it. And if you can go heavy and still have Andrews and Likely as receiving options, that's a pretty good those are pretty good receiving options to have to go heavy with, so you can run or pass pretty effectively through. So Likely's another guy that I'm pretty I like the upside of a lot.
He might be on the cover of the Mosales 200.
There you go.
He's like the tight end. I think ADP is like tight end 22, which is crazy because week 1 he's a tight end 1. Everyone used their waiver wire to pick him up. He would have had an extra touchdown, but he was a quarter inch right to beat KC, and then go to the end of the season, right? He scores that touchdown against Buffalo. So like Lamar in big games trusts him, right? Mark Andrews had 11 touchdowns in the position. He led the league, but he's 29. He had that fumble and he had that drop. I mean, they might easily pivot to Likely over Andrews, but in maybe 20 to 20, but red zone maybe they stick with Andrews. But
Yeah.
there's a chance for Likely to go be top 5 tight end, and it's not that unlikely. Likely is likely, so
Yeah.
he's almost must draft because if it's tight end 22, like you could take Trey McBride, then you take Likely. Likely's hits, you could then trade McBride for the crown jewels. So
Yeah. And
I
likely someone that I would love to pair with, like kind of going back to previously, like a Hunter Henry.
that
Where,
makes a lot
okay,
of sense too. Yeah.
yeah, maybe I don't want to start him every week, but I know Hunter Henry is going to get 4 for 40, which is unfortunately very playable for tight ends, and maybe he scores.
Not if you're on my fantasy team.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you go tight end heavy every week. Who are you leaving with? Are you leaving with Bowers or McBride?
I'm Bowers, but it's just because. But McBride, I just think this positive touchdown like regression is just so due. I didn't like he scored week 1. But it's like I hate Kyler. Like every time I watch him, he just drives me crazy because he's just when you bet against him, he does that week 2, right? When Marvin Harrison Jr. has like 130 yards in first quarter, and then when you bank on him like on the road in Green Bay, it's just a total no show. So I hate having McBride tied to Kyler, but so it's tough. But yeah, Bowers. I mean, let's talk Raiders, right? I mean, they brought in Chip Kelly, right? Your old guy. Is he still going to play that super fast pace?
I feel like he's kind of adapted. The issue with his offense when he was on the Eagles was it was like after like 3/4 of a season, everyone knew what he was going to run. So if you have elite talent, which I don't really think the Raiders do.
What?
They have Bowers and they have
Gianti. Yeah. Okay. Jacoby Myers is solid. People like Jack Betch. The O-line's not bad, and Geno Smith I think was top 5 in passing yards. I don't like. What are we doing? So maybe I'm just super high in the Raiders, but like, what are we doing?
You think they're elite?
Elite, yes. Elite.
So, I mean, they even fell off with prime Shady McCoy, prime Deshaun Jackson, prime Jeremy Maclin on the team, and Michael Vick.
Okay, but...
So that offense even fell off with Chip Kelly just because teams kind of figured out what it was. He's definitely improved. I think he was at Ohio State last year. I could be wrong with that, but, I mean, they've improved. I like Genty a lot. He's one of the running backs where, like, I mean, he's coming into just the full workload. Yeah. Like, you can't really say that about Judkins, Henderson, even Hampton. Like, they brought in competition in Najee. So, I have Genty definitely top 10, probably top 6.
What, overall?
I mean, running backs, not overall.
Oh, okay. Because I'm just worried because we've seen the rookie wide receivers. They can pop right away now where it used to take a half season, right? But these elite rookie running backs, I like a precedent, right? Like Bijan, I think was the RB8. Gibbs was like the RB9. Last year, I mean, Bucky was like the running backs don't really just take off right away. So that's a little worry to invest like that early round capital in him. But he does, if you're second to Barry Sanders all time in your last season, you're going to have my attention.
I look at more of the Barkley, Zeke Elliott comps over Bijan Gibbs because Bijan, whether you like Algier or not, he was still active in that offense. Gibbs still had David Montgomery. Kind of Zeke Elliott and Barkley came in with like they were a top 10 pick, and they didn't really they came in as the guy. Yeah, there wasn't much competition, unless who is it? Zamir White. I don't even know if he's the top competition anymore.
They have
Raheem Mostert,
who the oldest running back in the league.
Yeah.
He got hurt week 1.
Yeah, I just think he's the guy. I'll take that bet. I mean, I've failed in that bet. I took Clyde Edwards-Helaire when I thought he was the man, but then I also got Zeke Elliott another year. So I'm willing to take the bet because I mean, again, it's a high risk, high reward.
I remember people were taking Clyde with their first round pick, and I was like, really, we've never seen this guy before. But they're like, KC offense, and I luckily I didn't buy it, but I think Gianti's, there's almost no chance he's a bust, and we're going to have the spike weeks, right? He's going to have 200 all-purpose yard weeks. Like, you bank that. But the rate. It's just I worry the division, right? Who's got a great run defense? Well, Kansas City, Chargers, Broncos. That's 6 games where I'm not going to love the matchup, right? So
Yeah.
that's the only real hesitation I have, and it's just that top part of the draft is just so stacked. But
yeah, I mean, I
okay.
think that wide receiver room is what I'm looking at. Is do I still expect Jacoby Myers to get a 20+% target share? Because if so, like, I mean, he's pretty highly rated in my projections. I just don't know how much I trust him to keep that. Are they going? Is Jack Besh going to be a guy? Is Trey Tucker going to step up?
No.
But I think they got Thornton. He's another rookie. They got a QB who they're turning into a wide receiver as another rookie. Like, they have a lot of potential flyers that I'm looking at, especially in like end of the best ball if I picked up Geno. But that receiver room is stuff I'll definitely kind of star after my draft in the waivers to just see, hey, what's going to happen here.
Yeah, it's probably a bottom 5 wide receiver room.
Yeah.
But and then the other thing with Genty, right? Oh my God, we were just talking about him. The Eagles, the O-line, the offensive coach now, Doug. Who on the Raiders? That was the Eagles coach. We just talked about him. With the
Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly. Yeah, my brain went stop.
Yeah.
He loves involving the running backs in the receiving game, right? I think they always have like a 20-25% target share. So it's like, and Genty's so good in the receiving game. Like, that's the thing that maybe puts it over the top, right? If he's going 4 for 50 every day, that's like a 9-point bonus. Okay, that might be high. But he's just getting these bonus things and then the touchdowns and the rushing yards, right? Like, he might just fall into 15 to 20 points every week. So.
Yeah, like, that's kind of another reason I like Genty is the receivers aren't the best. So, like, they're going to find a way to get him the ball. Him and Bowers are going to have manufactured touches. I almost see Bowers as almost like the slot receiver, and then maybe they have Mayer play like your prototypical tight end.
Oh yeah, that's smart. They talked about like the Mayer a lot. Okay, so we talked about Denver briefly, but RJ Harvey is like this guy that's really got people. I'm super high on him because I think it might be the best situation in the NFL. Right, great O-line. They want to run the Sean Payton likes to run the ball. You got a mobile QB, right, which is going to take the pressure off him. You don't have a ton of great receiving weapons. You got a great defense. You're going to be up a lot. Why isn't he just going to again, fall into maybe 1,200 all-purpose yards, 10, 12 touchdowns?
He might.
And
it's
no
just
competition. Sorry.
Like, they have a lot of like very subpar competition, and they've kind of spread that out a good amount where it's like Tyson Batty or Bidet got some work. Jaleel McLaughlin's still there.
Audric Estime. Yeah.
Audric Estime. They still have J.K. Dobbins. Like, they picked up him.
Oh,
I
think
J.K. Dobbins is going to have the highest rush share on that team. Doesn't mean that R.J. Harvey's not going to be kind of the more like the best pass catching weapon out of that backfield. I don't know. That's one of the guys that I don't have projected that well, but he's like a very high potential pick. I mean, I have Denver in general projected pretty well from like a rushing standpoint. I just don't know who's going to get it all. And that's somebody who I would target later on. His hype is so much that like he's probably not someone I'm going to end up with a lot because he's getting hyped up a lot, and I just don't know if I trust it.
Sure. No, of course. But I don't like to bet on running backs. I like to bet on like O-lines and situations, right? And this is the Mona Lisa of situations. I guess the Dobbins isn't great because like he's probably a better running back, but he's never played a full season, right? He's been on the IR every season of his career. Last year he only missed 4 games, but still.
One thing to think about with Dobbins is this was kind of something I was looking at was Greg Roman. So he was the Ravens coach, offensive coach for a long time. Lamar Jackson never threw it to the running back. Greg Roman left. Justice Hill was like, he was flex startable a lot of weeks because he would just get a bunch of dump offs. Dobbins went to the Chargers with Greg Roman again. He got no passing game work. I don't know if that means he's not good in the passing game or if it just means the Chargers aren't going to pass it to the running back that much. So now J.K. Dobbins goes to a team that in Sean Payton that uses the running backs a lot in the passing game. He's somebody who, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but he could, like, he's somebody who I wouldn't doubt if they have like one of those late career one season like burst out, and RJ Harvey just can't beat him out, and J.K. Dobbins is the stud on that team. I don't know, but I'm not like putting it against, and that's, I mean, going to the Chargers, that's another reason I'm not really high on Amarian Hampton, because I just don't think he's going to get the pass game work, and he's going to be split up with Najee too much to be super valuable.
Oh no, for sure, yeah. But that situation is great, but Najee's never missed a game, so like you can't. There's not that upside isn't kind of the same as where like at least with Travion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson loves to fumble the ball, and he's kind of the old guard. Like you can easily see the Pats just like shifting him out and putting in the rookie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, another team. We got a few minutes left. We'll probably just go an hour. We got some 10 minutes left. Is that good for you?
That works.
Okay, so let's talk Houston, right? Big thing I'm always interested in is the year after, like the post-hype sleeper team. Everyone fell in love with Stroud. Now they still won a playoff game and actually pushed KC. But, Nico got hurt, Diggs got hurt, Tank got hurt. It was a mess. The play calling was terrible. They were third and long the whole season. And the O-line is an abomination. What are we doing with Houston? Because Nico is Nico's probably going to be on the cover of the Mosales 200 because I have him higher than everybody. But what do we do with them? Like, is Stroud, is he more like Stafford? He's going to be a great real life QB, bad fantasy QB. They got, they drafted two guys from the same school, I think, or two guys named Jaden, and they brought in Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, that's another team I had them noted down as a team. Who's going to be their second pass catching target?
Kirk, probably.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of room for somebody else to take that. And that's where I'm looking at Jaden Higgins or Jalen Newell, I think are the names.
Yeah.
Jaden Higgins was one of the first non-QBs to ever have a fully guaranteed second round contract. Okay. Second round. So like they obviously value him. So I think that's somebody who he's definitely somebody who I want to target later on. He's that rookie wide receiver that has a lot of room for improvement.
And that role beside Nico is great, right? He's a big play guy, and everyone's going to follow him around.
Yeah, I think Stroud has kind of proven, even in a down year, that he could carry too. Whether it was Diggs for a little bit or even Tank Dell for a little bit, that second role was still valuable. It just depended who was in it. So if somebody can kind of stake that, whether it's Higgins, I mean, maybe it's Kirk. I don't know. He had a down year on a very down Jacksonville team.
Yeah, got hurt too.
That whole team was that's kind of like a throwaway season. And so maybe he's bouncing back. I don't know, but that second pass catching target is one that I'm going to try to kind of diversify my shots on later in the drafts.
Okay. So, but how does the projections work with these teams? Like the O-line, I think was ranked last. They got rid of Laramie Tunsil. They didn't do a ton to improve it. Right. Mixon is a hard do not draft for me, but how does that work into the projections, like running game versus is there even run block, pass block considerations?
So a lot of it is kind of efficiency. So like your plays efficiency, yards per play efficiency.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's smart.
And so like with Houston, they were very
inefficient.
Yeah. I mean, I actually used 2013's data versus 2014, just because I thought that team projected a bit better.
Sorry, 2023?
Yeah, sorry, 2023. Yeah, sorry, 2023 data versus 2024, because I thought that team projected a bit better, kind of comparatively. I don't think they're going to be as run heavy with Mixon. I think that was kind of a flash in the pan. They kept adding more running backs to kind of take stuff off. They added Nick Chubb. I'm not saying Nick Chubb's going to be great, but I just think he's going to be someone to spell Mixon a bit more. And Mixon isn't going to get the 60 to 70% rush shares in every game he's healthy. So I think that, and then I do just project Stroud to be a bit better from a projection standpoint and efficiency. I don't think he's going to be as good. So I picked 2023 data and then I kind of reverted it back to the mean of 2024 league averages. So maybe he's not going to have a 7% or like a 7 yards per pass attempt. League average is closer to like 6.5. So like I kind of take the offense that I want or that I think will fit the next season, and then I revert things back to the league average mean. So I'm not projecting I'm not projecting like massive outliers because I just won't, in my opinion, you don't really quote unquote win money doing that, projecting the outliers, because you lose more on that. So it's more of like a safe bet on what I think this offense could look like moving forward.
Okay, so I like that. So like Nico missed, I think, 4 weeks, but he got hurt first quarter of the Bills game. But
Yeah.
let's say Nico missed half the season and Tank was out. And you had half the season with Nico and Stroud, and he was averaging like 280 yards, 2 touchdowns a game, right? Which is a peak offense. And in the back half, without Nico, he was at like 180 and like at a 10-10 touchdown interception ratio. Assuming Nico's going to be healthy for the season, would you weight those games with Nico healthy more than the ones without?
So that's kind of one thing of like I picked the target share. So like 2024, his target share, I don't have the numbers on how many games he missed, but he was at 18% target share, and I know he missed a lot of weeks.
Yeah, 5. So I think 5. Yeah, 5 was 5 because he was on all my fantasy teams.
So that's 18% of the total targets for the team, even when he was out. So despite him only having 18%, I projected him at 28%.
Okay.
Because like when he was healthy, that's about what he was getting. So that's how you'll see the difference in projections with injuries is, okay, whether it's Nico Collins, I'm trying to think of other guys that would be. For some reason, I can't think of wide receivers who had a bunch of injuries, but like
Puka.
All of those. Yeah, Puka, he was closer to like 26%, but with all the injuries, it's obviously lower. So those are things I'm going to update when I look at previous seasons, and I'll kind of input based on what I saw from last season. And I'm not going to assume injuries. I'll assume like prior injury. Like I'm not assuming Tank Dell's going to play, but like those are kind of things that I'll adjust.
Okay, so one last theme before we wrap up. These crowded wide receiver rooms. They're a big theme. This is what I've been writing about. We got Indy. They got 4 guys. Packers got 4 guys. I guess Niners got 3 with a tight end. Let's start with Green Bay because we haven't talked about them, right? Christian Watson showed that summer video. He might be ready. Maybe he's week 5. Who knows? But they drafted Matthew Golden, burner out of Texas, right? Jaden Reed. He was the wide receiver 1 in week 1. And they got Dobbs. They got Dontavian Wicks. How do your projections work with that? Because everyone can't have a 20% target share. Let's start with Jaden Reed. What are we doing with him?
I mean, these are kind of difficult players to kind of project. I only have him at like a 16%. If you look at last season, their highest target getter was 16.4, and that was Wicks.
Really?
Yeah, Wicks had the most targets last season.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had the one game I think with 16 targets. That's crazy. That's blows my mind.
And like one thing that I also think this kind of goes to somebody who I was pretty far below consensus on as a result of the crowded wide receiver room is Tucker Kraft. So he's projected a top 10 tight end. I just don't see it because you have so many options at receiver that like that's just going to split the pie even more. I'm not saying he's a bad tight end, but you have all those options. You also have Luke Musgrave, who's a pretty solid tight end too. So like I just can't in my right mind project him to be a top 10 tight end. I'm not saying he doesn't have the potential to kind of grab more. There's obviously potential in this whole
massive weeks last year.
Yeah, like there's potential in this receiving room to grab target share. I just don't know who's going to do it. So I'm not going to take a bet. Like I'd rather take a bet on the 4th person in the room than I would pay up for the 1st. So that'd be more my strategy is let me take a late round bet because I don't want to lose out on somebody in a position where I know they're going to have more targets or more opportunities.
Okay, but we've also seen that nobody really wants to rise to the top, right? Watson's not a true one. Jaden Reed had his struggles. Dobbs is whatever. So doesn't Golden then have that potential? Because if you're the wide receiver 1 on a team, especially that's a good team to be on, right? They are explosive. Couldn't he really make the leap if he has a breakout rookie season, especially where he was drafted?
Yeah, I mean, part of this for me goes to like what I prefer my receivers to be. Like Golden to me coming out was almost more of like that Deshaun Jackson role. I could be wrong. It just kind of, that was what I saw when I looked at him in like kind of draft projection style. That Deshaun Jackson role has almost never been like a consistent fantasy option or like a wide receiver 1 option, just because it's hard to predict. It's a great like wide receiver 2, 3 flex option just because you get the boom weeks. But like, I'm not saying Tet's better than like Tet McMillan is way better than Golden, but like he just projects more as that wide receiver 1, like that demands targets than I think Golden does. So like if he went to Green Bay, yeah, I would say like they obviously saw something in him. They really want this. To me, Golden almost looks like insurance for Christian Watson injury. And it's just like, all right, I now can trust that Matthew Golden will be healthy and will stretch the field in a way that you can kind of like combine him with the rest of your wide receivers. You have a good room. I still don't see anyone taking over that.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what about in those situations where they have all these weapons? Are you more likely to target Jordan Love because at least he'll be a part of everything?
He's not. I mean, he's in a category that I'll shotgun QBs with. He doesn't run it enough for me. And recently, I have, despite being more late round, I've tended to kind of go with the more safe rushing QBs. Like, I still don't know why Hurts is sometimes behind like Joe Burrow in drafts. I've ended up with him in best ball leagues way more than I wanted to. Like, and I don't even think it was me being a Philly like lover. It's just he tends to kind of fall. So I don't see myself getting Love. Yeah, I think a different version of Love would be like a Caleb Williams where there's a lot. It's a new offense. There's a lot of weapons. I'll take the shot on Caleb Williams over Jordan Love.
Because of the rush. That makes sense for sure. Well, the thing with Hurts, I think, right? Philly threw the least amount of passes. It's hard to project defenses. I know they lost some key guys in the secondary. So, but people are still projecting the Super Bowl winner to be an elite team, which means if you're up in the 4th, Hurts isn't throwing the ball, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go Indy, right? That's another one, right? We got Josh Downs. We got Michael Pittman. We got Alec Pierce and Donnie Mitchell. I think Pierce led the league in yards per reception. Pittman's got 2 top 15 seasons in his career. But Josh Downs seems like he's the guy who's really emerging. Do you have different philosophy than with Green Bay? Because also the QB situation's murkier?
I tend to think Pittman and Downs are a step above. So, and I think with Daniel Jones most likely as a QB, I am kind of increasing them more and more just because I don't like Richardson. I like as like a fantasy QB more just because
of course.
I know he's half running back. But like Daniel Jones, I think will be way better for the pass catching options. And I think Downs and Pittman have kind of shown they can be. Downs will be your more big play. Pittman will be your kind of in between the hashes, like your short yardage receiver, and can probably, I think will probably get more receptions. So I like those two over Adonai and Pierce. I think Pierce is kind of that the deep role. And I think Pierce was almost better for Anthony Richardson because Anthony Richardson would just run around and chuck it.
Yeah.
So I like Downs and Pittman way more with Daniel Jones.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, last one. Then we're going to wrap up. So Tampa, right? Godwin, I think he was the wide receiver 2 in fantasy points per game, but only in, I think, 11 games. Mike Evans, 1,000 yards every year of his career, even if they cheated to get it. Jalen McMillan was on the most Yahoo title teams, right? And then they drafted Emeka Buka, who was a lot of people's favorite wide receiver in the draft. So, I mean, what do we do here? I think I'm with you in Green Bay philosophy. Give me the late guys, and I'll ignore the studs. But there's also a huge, Godwin and Evans are true wide receiver studs, or were.
Yeah, I really like the late guys in this more just because Godwin and Evans are older and they're probably more injury prone. This is one of the situations where it's like, yeah, everyone's high on Baker. I needed to push my projections down on the Bucs to make Baker lower in my rankings because he was way higher than I expected at first go. So I think Baker's another QB who I would be targeting. I haven't been paying too much attention to ADP, but like I would draft him as a top 8 QB. I don't know if that's way above, but I think he's worth it.
Well, there's a sneaky rushing. I bet his rushing yards like every big game last year.
Yeah.
And he went over every time. So, okay, so that's it for us, right? So check out tomorrow the Mosales 200. Sign up for the draft guide. Brian, Thursday, the projections. We'll probably have you on again soon to go over some and play with it. That's always fun. This was great. So make sure, check out the discounts. You get 60% off the draft guide. Check us out. You got Brian's Fantasy at Shane_Fantasy. I'm at Jon Mosales. And that's going to do for us. All right. Thanks, Brian.